truth, and the life. You're the well that never runs dry. I'm the branch and you are the vine. Draw me close and teach me to abide. With a spirit leads as I'm following, I depend on you. I depend on you for the victories still in front of me. I depend on you. Oh, I depend on you. You're the way, the truth, and the life. You're the well that never runs dry. I'm the branch and you are the vine. Draw me close and teach me to abide. Be my strength and in the night. Be my all, my treasure, my prize. I am yours forever, you're mine. Draw me close and teach me to abide. Teach me to abide. Teach me your ways. When I pass through death, as I enter rest, I depend on you. I depend on you for eternal life, to be raised with Christ. I depend on you. Oh, I depend on you. You're the way, the truth, and the life. You're the well that never runs dry. I'm the branch and you are the vine. Draw me close and teach me to abide. Be my strength, my song in the night. Be my all, my treasure, my prize. I am yours forever, you're mine. Draw me close and teach me. You're the way, the truth, and the life. You're the well that never runs dry. I am the branch and you are the vine. Draw me close and teach me to abide. Oh, teach me to abide.
So don't worry about that. Hey, we're in the second half of the series of Love God, Love People. And then, today's title is Love Speaks Truth. And the important about the love speaking truth is that we don't always like the truth, do we not? We kind of get ourselves settled into this area that we have to, feel good in order to be good. No, in order for us to be in God's presence, we have to have truth spoken. Sometimes it doesn't feel good. Sometimes it makes you mad. And sometimes that mad makes you turn into something more because you start to change where you were going to where you need to be with your future. So Jesus is speaking, and when he spoke, he didn't stop with this love God. He said, and second, love your neighbor as yourself. Now, kids, you all have one of these, do you not? If you have your paper, raise it in the air. Raise it like you don't care. Woo! All right. I'm going to stop and I'm going to give you some insight because, we want you to have this. The first one up on this right here is that Jesus said to love your neighbor and is be as your parents. Help me out here. Yourself. Everyone say yourself. All right, we're going to, okay, so parents, hey, honey, you make more coffee for the parents too. I'm just saying. Okay. All right, so in other words, God, if you love God and your love for God is real, you'll show it on how you treat other people. Now, if you're taking notes, I'm going to say that again. You will show your love for God on how you treat other people. You can't worship high on Sunday and then live hateful on Monday. That's just not the way it works. We cannot worship that way. We can't be intimate that way. We can't claim to be intimate with God while walking in bitterness, dishonor, deceit, selfishness, and cruelty. We can't say that we're intimate with Him. We can't say we're next to Him if we're living in those things. What we do need to understand is that the Ten Commandments itself, the second half of this, is about the relationship with people. The first half is what we need to be doing with God. The second half is saying this is our relationship with people, on how God wants us to treat others, how we need to see things. Love for God must overflow into love for others. A shallow love, an emotion-filled love, or a convenient love is not what He's looking for. He's looking for sacrificial, relational, holy, real love. He's looking for that love that when you are away from Him is the same when you're away from others. He wants you to pour your love for Him into others. If we love Jesus first and we love others as ourselves, then we know how He's been loving us. We have a roadmap, and we're going to get into that roadmap today. Excuse me. All right, now, right off the bat, love honors relationships. Now, I want us to go to Exodus 20:12. It says, honor your father and your mother. Now, this very first commandment here begins with what? Honor, that we're talking about. It's the honoring of. Why? Not because love is, just how you feel, because it feels good. No, we want to treat people and treat the ones that God has placed in our lives because He's assigned them in our lives. So, right off the bat for this 2012, everyone, all the kids need to be writing down mother in that first spot there. Okay? Hey, my notes are different, so I'm just going to let you figure it out. Find an adult, they'll walk with you through it. Here we go. Because I need to have a special spreadsheet, it looks like. All right. So our first relationship is to commit to honor. We don't just do it because it feels good. We do it because this is how God has treated us, and this is how He wants us to treat other people who've been placed in our lives. Guess what? You have people placed in your lives that know nothing about God. And how you treat them and treat others, they're watching you, and therefore they know something special about you. If you can't treat others well, they don't believe that you know Christ, or if the Christ you know is just a judging, mean person. But if you treat them with love, you treat them with honor, you start with your parents, you work your way out to other relationships, it changes everything about your way you walk. I want us to also understand that honor means recognizing the God-given order. And this goes way beyond your parents. This goes beyond, just a casual relationship. This is all relationships. If you honor those around you, you'll be honored back. Even in their dishonor, they will find a way to see that you're being honoring. Have you met that one person that is standing there and people treat him really bad? Let's talk about Charlie Kirk. He was doing, debates. He never dishonored anyone in any of his debates. Now, can we agree that he actually gave out the Word of God? Did he address the hard topics? Did he confront individuals? Yes, but he did it with honor. We can still tell God's truth with honor. Now, as we start to look at this, the kingdom still says honor matters because love does not hate or put down. Love does not mock what God has assigned. Now, we also have to understand with that last part, we do not mock what God has assigned. We have people who are getting blessed, and we get, and this covers a couple different things. We dishonor them because we don't like how they're receiving something. We have people that have worked hard all their lives, and God has blessed them in different ways, and we are not being blessed the same way, so we start to have problems. This goes into coveting. This goes into other things. And so as we start to break this down, realize how all these commandments actually interlink and lock together like a great wall, or even like a bunch of Legos for the kids to understand. They snap into place and they interlock together. So, honor means gratitude. Now, gratitude also is about showing that respect, and when you show respect, you show gratitude. So, when we close this portion out, we understand that we must treat people as God has treated us. We need to also love and not mock what He's assigned. We need to not be hateful or putting down others. We need to honor not only our mother and our father, but those other relationships in our lives. Amen? All right. Exodus 20:13. It says, I shall not murder. Now, this is a hard one, right? I shall not kill. I shall not murder. Jesus shows how much deeper this commandment is, because it's more than physical. It reaches into our anger, our hatred, our contempt, our malice. Have you ever met someone who uses their words to cut someone down? You know, I know many people who really get punched in the face than have you say a bunch of mean things to them. Because stick and stones may break your bones, but words are going to break their heart. And when we break someone's heart, that's harder to mend than a bone. Some of us still are picking and have a bone to pick with someone 30, 40 years later because of what they did to us once. And let me say this, we can also find ourselves in that same boat as being the person that someone else sees us in that same light. Not because of what we're saying, but because of what they think we're saying versus asking the question. So love does not destroy people. But many people destroy others by their mouths, their gossip, their bitterness, or just their constant dishonor. Let me go back over that again. If I don't say it more than once, you don't think it's important, because it is. But love protects life. Love sees people as image bearers. Do you see other people as image bearers? Do you see God putting a light into someone else to be an image for honor, for gratitude, for respect? We also know that love refuses to tear down what God has made. Remember, every one of you in here, every person that's come in your life, God has made them. Even if they don't believe in Him, they've been made by Him. I've already told you how dumb I think politics are. And yeah, I said dumb. I didn't say stupid this time. I changed it. But let me go ahead and be real clear here. Politics, the politicians, that's a title. That's not a person. We still have to go back to this. They may be saying things that can destroy others, but we need to be saying that God has made them. We don't need to tear them down, but we need to speak truth of God. When we speak truth, we still can honor and also put the real words and the facts on the paper. When we start to do this, when it says, you shall not murder, you can murder outside of the physical body. You can murder someone's spirit. You can murder someone's attitude. You can murder their trust. You could stop them because you're speaking death into them. If you love God, stop speaking that death over people that He's created with His glory. Now, every boy that will ever hurt my daughter, they're on my list. Most wanted. But I also had to go back. When I was working this out, I had to learn real quick that every one of my kids had someone in their lives that did something. And my wife and I had someone in our lives that did something, but they were still created by God. And what do I need to do? I need to learn to focus on what God has put in them and what God has put me in front of them for. See, you may have that person in front of you don't like, because that's the person you need to learn how to love. That's your biggest training ground. When I went into the military, I could lift weights, I could do all kinds of stuff. I couldn't hang from a pole for nothing, and my push-ups and sit-ups, well, they were quite horrendous. I got to 30, and I was shaking like an earthquake. A lot more shaking going on now than then, trust me. But as I had to confront doing things that I thought were wrong, or whatever the drill instructor said I was doing wrong, the longer I was in push-up position, the longer I was facing something I disliked, the stronger I got in it. I went in with 30 being a great number. I left out with doing 250. Now, push-ups are something important because it builds your upper strength. So let's translate that to our Bible. When we love people versus hurting them, guess what we're doing? We are reinforcing that we have patience. We're reinforcing that God is in control of our lives, that we're not acting on emotion, we're acting on spiritual guidance. We're acting on discernment. When we do that, we don't attack people verbally. We don't attack people and to tear them down. We want to build them up. But God says this very clearly, you shall not murder. That goes from the abortion, that goes to malice, that goes to anything. We should know this, that life is important. As a police officer, let me tell you right now, it was hard to be able to say, well, what would you do if someone did this, and look them right in the eye and say that you believe in Jesus, but you would hurt someone? If I'm protecting someone, I'm in the full armament of God. There's a difference between protection, because we have people who go off to war. Well, they're murderers. No, they're following orders. They're doing what they're told to do. God sent armies out to fight. Did he not? And when we have to understand that this is about malice, this is not about duty. This is not about protection. This is about saying that someone is being hurt just because. That's what murder is. So let's stop speaking death over people and let's start celebrating glory. And if that doesn't work for you, stop and pray. And I guarantee you, God's going to be tapping you right on your heartstrings. Now, love wants us to stay faithful. And now verse 14 says this, you shall not commit adultery. Whew! I tell you right now, adultery is more than just a physical touch as well. This right here is also talking about how we treat other gods, little g, with our main God. We have a love affair with everything else. How many of you love your phone more than you think that you should? That is adultery with God. Let me go ahead and be real simple here, real quick. We put other things before God, but this is about a covenant that is faithful. Love is not about lust, not about using people, not about taking from other people. Love is not feeding the flesh while starving the soul. We are not going to do that. We cannot do that because we're taking from what God has created. Real love is faithful, pure, honors the covenant and guards what is sacred. What is sacred to you? What is sacred to God? If they're not the same thing, you need to re-examine what you love and how you love. We also need to understand that this applies not only to marriage, but to all our relationships. This goes over a multitude of betrayals and games of trust being played against us. We need to understand that this comes down to the real love that has real faithfulness. Love respects what belongs to others. Now, this is where this starts to connect. You start to see this Lego wall start to snap into place. Now we're talking about, next slide for me, please, sir. In 15, he says, you shall not steal. Now, we're not just talking about property. I want you to hear me here, because we've all done this. We stole someone's peace, their trust. We stole the credit, the time, and the dignity of another. We've all done this. Love does not like or stand for selfishness. Love gives generosity. A selfish heart says, what can I get from you? A surrendered heart says, how can I serve you? Which one do you think Jesus spoke more of? When we start to understand this, we start to get into this, love does not use people as a ladder to climb. Love serves a value for peace, trust, credit, time, and dignity. It is a bridge. It brings people up. It doesn't tear them down. It gives them peace. Prayer is the number one way. If you pray for someone, you're not stealing, you're giving, right? When you see something that you like, you just don't walk up and grab it. and walk away with it. There's a cost to everything. Your freedom, your salvation, there was a cost that someone else paid for. So, if we cannot steal, then we also need to understand that we need to speak the truth. We do not need to give false testimony. Go to the next slide, 16 for me, please. You shall not give false testimony. Man, there's a lot of things about to happen in Revelations that we haven't got to yet. A lot of false testimonies going on. They speak as much about false teachers in the Bible than you'll ever be able to realize when you go back and look at it. The book of Jude is all about false teaching and how to look around it, look past it. We have people who will give false testimony to grab a hold of someone else's stuff so that they will steal, so that they will cheat on, so they will murder in some form or fashion, so that they will dishonor. You see how all these are stepping together? They all link together. When we wake up in the morning, we'll break 5 of the 10 commandments before we know it, just because they're linked together. But you know what's great about this? Our Lord has grace on us. He has given us grace. He loves us. And when we are owned by Him, everything we do, this is not an excuse to do it, by the way. Disclaimer. I'm going to go ahead and put it right there. I wish there was like words in front of me flashing. He has already forgotten what you've already done if your life is in His hands. But that does not mean it gives you free rein to go out and do something silly and continue to keep on doing sin. Keep on living out each one of these commandments in a way that you're glorifying them in the negative and not the positive. When we're not loving God first and loving people second. So here, relationships die where truth disappears. Love is honest. Love is trustworthy. Now, if you go back to 2 Corinthians, you start reading it, if you put your name in next to love, you'll find out how far you are from being perfect. None of us are perfect. Remember that. So, love is honest. Love is trustworthy. Love does not lie to protect itself. Love does not twist the facts to win. If we're going to love our neighbor as ourselves, then our mouths must stop being weaponized to hurt them. And get this, when love speaks truth, it guards reputation. It refuses to gossip. It refuses to slander. It refuses half-truths. And it will not address concerns that do not belong in your wheelhouse. Have you ever had something living rent-free in your head that has nothing to do with you, but it got you so ate up, your blood pressure is high, your appetite's either over or under? I'm the kind of guy, I eat more than I should when things are living in my head when it shouldn't. If it's not paying rent, it doesn't need to be there. Get rid of it. Ask for forgiveness for whatever it is and move on. When we do that, we change our outlook. We get where our testimony stands firm on the truth of God and not on the truth of man. Because those are two separate things, I guarantee you. Now, love also is not greedy in a sense that we're not going after someone else's stuff. And on the 17th verse here, it says, you shall not covet. Now, coveting is the poison of compassion. When we covet someone else's stuff, we start to violate everything else. Think about it. Adultery is about coveting. Stealing is about coveting. I want you to, and I'm going to say this over and over, we're seeing how this is linking together, that we do one because we're already doing the others. There's no mistake here. And let me give you this little insight. Moses goes up on the hill. Who wrote the 10 Commandments? Quick question. God did with his own finger. He comes off the mountain. He comes down. He looks. And he was gone 30 days. They already evicted him out of his apartment. They're having a party out front, a barbecue with all this gold and stuff. Moses breaks the tablets. Let me ask you, we know that those were broken and we got another set. Did God change his mind? No. Because God is the same yesterday as he is today and as he will be tomorrow. He didn't change it, but he also let them know that they were wrong. He let them know what the Ten Commandments were right then, right there. We live in that same way. We think that we can find a loophole. There's no loophole. His word's still the same. Every one of these still means something. And when we covet someone else, we start to see greed in our lives. When our gratitude turns into greed, then we start to taint the blessings that God has given. When we start to understand that our neighbors are no longer neighbors, they're competitors, I have to be better than them. If they got a new car, I'll get a new car. If they got new windows, I'm getting new windows. If they got a new spouse, well, I might need to get a new spouse. And that is how our society has been working. And let me tell you what, a little hint for everyone watching online who's young, it's cheaper to keep them. I'm going to let you know that. Because my wife goes back, I shall not murder, but I might be forgiven. Anyway, that's a joke. You can laugh. No? I fell short on that one, evidently. All right, but look. We cannot let coveting get in the way of loving God. Because remember this, whatever God creates, now this is not my line, this comes from another pastor, whatever God creates, Satan's going to counterfeit. If you can't afford one thing, let's go back to the Gucci purses or whatever. Gucci's one of, anyway, one of those fancy things that are too expensive. Well, a lot of people, if they can't afford it, if you can't get it because you think you're not good enough, you go buy the one that's misspelled, the knockoff. Well, we do that in our spiritual life too. If we think we can't be close enough to God because it's too hard to do that, we'll do whatever Satan puts before us that is the counterfeit offering of what God is offering. And then we go down the wrong path. We start getting off course. It's not the same thing. When God says love, Satan says love to hate. God says love to grow. There's two different ways of looking at love. Satan wants you to go the wrong direction. Every one of these are a guard against Satan. This wall we're building is a hedge of protection from Satan and the world. So, as we love, we need to understand that we need to trust God, and God trusts us with what he's given us. But here's the most important thing. Love says this, what God has for me is enough. I lived many years, every time my truck would hit a certain mileage, I'd be trading it in. Sometimes after doing this lesson, sometimes I'll look at this and I go, I just wanted something to smell new on the inside. That was all counterfeit because guess what? I was a slave to that payment. I was a slave to whatever it may have been. We covet in our relationships. When we follow God, when we start looking at this, we start saying, this is when you know you're coveting. And here's the key word. When you say why. Think about it, the word why. Now let me finish this. Why do they have what I do not have? Why is their marriage stronger? Why is their blessing bigger? Why is their platform larger? When we start using the word why in the sense of taking it towards something of value and we're asking why they have, we've already started coveting. And that's a big word. That three little letters is a big word. And it starts to stop us up, and it stops the beautiful four-letter word of love in its tracks. Because when we start loving stuff, we stop loving God. When we say no to one, we're saying yes to another. If we say no to God, we're saying yes to Satan. But when we say yes to God, we say no to Satan. Your time can be coveted by others as well and by you. How do you spend it? We have to learn that better. In our household, we're reworking ourselves because and let me just give you a little insight on the Lot house, and I probably will, if you don't see me next week, look in the backyard by the flower bed, 6 feet under. But no. We realized that we weren't sitting close enough together for the last 3 months. I have my little chair. I like my chair. It's comfy. But I found that we were sitting too far apart. I found out, you know how I found out? Because my wife said we're sitting too far apart. We get comfortable in doing things. Coveting doesn't always mean, it's not an overt act of trying to deceive. Sometimes it just happens to get in the way. Understand this. And we were talking, and guess what? Now I'm going to bug her to death. She's opened the gate. Then she goes, "You're too hot. Ew, get away." But that's okay, because guess what? We are letting what God has created to be an image for our daughter to see, for her friends to see. That's important to me. So we're not going to covet the other things. We're not going to covet that chair. Now, I'll still sit in the chair? Yeah, I'm going to sit in the chair. It cost me $50. It's a great chair. I mean, that just shows you how cheap I am, but that's a different story. All right, so hey, as we keep going on, Jesus takes all these commandments, starts wrapping them together, and he comes up with one blazing truth here. Love your neighbor as yourself. That does not mean indulgence. Every one of these becomes an indulging thing, right? If I want someone, I want to indulge in their stuff. If I'm having adultery, I want to indulge in that relationship. If I want to steal, I want to take that because I want to indulge in that. When we love ourselves, it's not about indulgent. It's about recognizing what it means to have value and protecting that value with yourself, with God. So, you're saying why? Well, let's go ahead and get rid of that word, and let's change it this. If you want grace, give grace. If you want respect, you give respect. If you want patience, give patience. If you want forgiveness, you must give forgiveness. But look, if you want truth, you have to speak it. If you want mercy, you have to give it. See, this is what this love your neighbor is all about. This is how, because all these things God has given you. Everything I just spoke out was what God has given each one of us individually. And when we start to unfold that, we get to understand this, that in John 13:34, it says this, love one another as I have loved you. This is the secret sauce to the whole entire, when he says the second commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself, right? And how do you love yourself? You love as Jesus has loved you. That's how you know how to love. And if you don't know how to love, maybe you haven't found that true love of Jesus yet. You haven't found that peace in Jesus. You haven't found the grace in Jesus. You haven't found the life in Jesus. Because you're coveting someone else's life. You're stealing someone else's ideal. You're stealing someone else's time. You're killing someone's spirit because you're not following God. Now, that wasn't in my notes, so give me a second. No, let's get back on this. We cannot let the world get in the way of what God has created. You are an image bearer of what Christ has given. When we love others, when we love God, we'll see that we love God fully. We're going to love people faithfully. And it's hard to do all the time. So this requires us to understand that the sacrificial, patient, merciful, trustworthy, and completely loving someone is what happened on the cross. When you see the cross, you should see a complete love. When you start to understand, when we start to deny ourselves, we start to get more understanding, and we start to see that loving God fully and loving people faithfully, it starts to be displayed on this cross. What was the cross? I almost forgot the cross that's in here. The cross. You look at that cross, look up and down. The vertical points the love of God. Who hung from the Christ? Christ hung from that cross, did he not? And when he did, his feet was touching us, and his head was in heaven. Then we go vertical, we start looking across it. His arms are stretched out, nailed to both sides of that wood. How do you get hugged? When you open your arms up, and then you embrace. See, our vertical is from heaven to earth. Our vertical is heaven to earth. Our horizon, our right to left, is for everyone around us. How do you love? Do you embrace, or do you become abrasive? Are you a porcupine in nature or are you a border collie? Right? Because if you're a porcupine, how many people want to love on you? No one wants to love on a porcupine because guess what? It hurts. And some of us have transitioned from being that, let me be fair, being a cat or a dog, from that kind of mentality into a porcupine. Worse yet, we have snakes out there, do we not? They will try to steal everything from you. So if we're going to love, let's love fully. We're not called to just admire his love. We're asked and we're told to live in it. This does not mean that you're not going to see surrender or sacrifice. You have to do that. You have to change. And if you don't change, what are you loving? So let me go ahead and finish this out real quick, because I got off course with all my rant and raving here. The Ten Commandments is not just stone. It reveals the love of the Word, the truth of the Word. The first half of it shows the love for God. The second half shows the love for others. When are we going to start loving God in the manner that he's called us to do? So as I'm closing this out, know this right here. When we love God with all our heart, his love will flow through your life. The law is no longer just something you read. It's something that is written on your heart and you live out. The Ten Commandments is nothing more than the hedge of protection we pray for. Protecting us from the outside world. Protecting us from things that keep us from seeing God. We can't let stuff of the world get in the way of the real things that God has for you. So I encourage you today to seek after God first. Love your neighbor as you've been loved by Christ. And if you don't know the love of Christ, let's talk.